welcome to another video on the Serity YouTube channel. In this video, we are going to talk about a potential GRC integration of vendor risk management in ServiceNow. What are the benefits of integrating vendor risk management with the GRC application? It's just the benefits of getting like a top-down traceability when it comes to the overall compliance posture in the organization, since you can connect control objectives directly to questions in a questionnaire template, which is then sent out to the vendor. So it automatically tracks compliance based on the vendor's answers. In this video, I am going to show the process, just a high-level overview of how an integration of vendor risk management in GRC could look. And I will start by explaining the process. As you can see, I am currently on the control objective record. If you want further information on the control objectives and what they are, we have another video already uploaded onto the YouTube channel, but I'm just quickly going to explain what they are. So control objectives, in this case, it came through the UCF, which is a partner that provides authority documents into ServiceNow, and it requires an additional subscription. So in this case, a control objective is just a general control that we have to implement in the organization to be compliant to different authority documents and their citations. But it's not yet connected to a specific object. So as you can see, I will just quickly show this to you. You can see that this control objective satisfies 5 different citations, which also fits the term of test once, apply many. And you can see that we have no controls yet. So the control objectives, the general control is already there, but we have no controls that we have to implement. So in this case, that's where the entity types come in. And entity types are already explained in another video, but just maybe quickly. Entity types are things that every organization has to define for themselves, but they are nothing else than a group of objects that we define, and then we apply our control objectives to create controls per entity. In this case, there are multiple options. It's very individual how to define entity types, and that's one of the important steps that every organization implementing any GRC application has to go through. But in this case, just to show the benefits of integrating vendor risk management and policy and compliance management, or GRC in general, I will use my vendors as an entity type to create a control per vendor. So I will just quickly do that, and then we'll go on with the process. As you can see, I have added my entity type of vendors to the control objectives, which then automatically generated my controls for each entity. So this is my control objective. Identify and authenticate approved devices before establishing a connection to restricted data, which is applied to all of my vendors, my entity type. Those entities are defined with the help of entity filters. So as I already said, it's for each control objective or each organization, you have to define different entity types. But in this case, the entity type of vendors came in very handy. So I have edited, and as you can see, I have my controls generated automatically, and that's where the integration with vendor risk management comes in. So as you can see here, I can add in the related lists an assessment metric, and assessment metrics are nothing else than questions that I send out to the vendor. Maybe I will just quickly explain it. So the assessment templates that we use in ServiceNow to send out to the vendor consist of a document request template, which, as the name already explains, is like just requesting a document, for example, a SOC 1 report, and a questionnaire template. So questionnaire templates are the questions that we ask the vendor. I have already created an assessment metric just to show the capabilities. So I would maybe just quickly add that one to the control objective. As you can see, the question is, does your organization identify and authenticate approved devices before establishing a connection to restricted data? So I will create the relationship. And as you can see, now I have added my assessment metric to the control objectives and the controls that are in the control objective. The next step is sending out the assessment that contains the assessment metric, and then based on the vendor's answer, we will set the state of these controls to compliant or incompliant. So now I am going to manually start an assessment for the vendor intel, just to show how the answers can automatically set the controls in the control objectives to compliant or non-compliant. So I have added my assessment metric, which is the question, to an assessment already, and I will just quickly send it out to the vendor. So this is a test assessment, and it inherits the assessment template, which I call GRC integration test assessment, and that's it. So I can now submit this assessment to the vendor for him to be visible in the vendor portal. I will do that as well. And you can see the state of the assessment is now submitted to vendor. I will now log in as the primary contact of the vendor intel inside of the vendor portal, answer the assessment, and then we can see how the controls are affected. Now I am logged into the vendor assessment portal as the Intel contact, as you can see, and I have the assessment, the GRC integration test assessment right here. I will open it and answer the questions. In this case, we have no document requests and we have just a questionnaire template, which is called restricted data security, and it inherits one question, which is the question that is defined by our assessment metric. It's the same. Does your organization identify and authenticate approved devices before establishing a connection to restricted data? The correct answer for our own organization to be compliant would be yes. And if the vendor is answering with no, we would be incompliant in one control. So we are going to give the answer, and we would send this back to the backend, right? Perfect. Now we will go back into the backend again to see how this answer is affecting our control. I have to mention something, and that is that only if the assessment state is set to closed or finalizing with vendor, the controls on the control objective are going to be updated. So if you want to know more about the life cycle of vendor risk assessment, we have another video about that on the YouTube channel as well. But in this case, I pushed the state of the assessment into closed automatically, manually. And as you can see, the control for my vendor intel is set to compliant. That's a high-level overview of how an integration between vendor risk management and GRC could look like. Now imagine that all of these assessments would be sent out. I would have many vendors hopefully comply with that control objective, and some of them would maybe be incompliant, but based on the answers, I would get a different compliance score percentage. That was the video. I hope it gave maybe like a good overview over the whole process. Different variations of any integrations between vendor risk management and GRC will definitely be uploaded, but this is just a high-level overview, as I already said. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you got some information out of it. Hopefully, until the next video. Bye bye.